When I play our game and then talk, I'm trying, Jennifer.
Rip City, do not adjust your dial. That's right, we're back. It's been damn near a year, I think. And, it's time to dust the mic off, put the headphones in, pull up a chat, and have a good time talking some Blazer basketball. So, as always, I've got the doctor here. I've got Fawad with me. Fawad, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing so good. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to relaunching this for so long. Last season got a little bit busy for both of us, but I can't wait to get this started up again. I'm so excited to be back.
Yeah, I mean, last year last year was a nightmare, not only because we were, a pretty pitiful team, but also just life got in the way. And on top of everything, I was going to save this for a little bit later, but you just brought it up. Well, you didn't bring it up, but I'm bringing it up now. So we're just going to talk about it right now. Root Sports made it so impossible for me to want to watch any basketball that had to do with the Blazers that I lost all interest in watching it. Like, I could not stand watching the horrible quality of, not the quality of basketball the Blazers were playing, because I could care less win or lose last year, but the streaming quality, the video quality was so bad, I lost all interest. And it was like, I didn't want to just come in here and make podcasts when I wasn't even watching the games, on top of having another kid and, dealing with family stuff. So that was what was going on with me. Fawad, was there anything going on with you?
Yeah, man, life got in the way for me too. Probably not as bad as you, but I had just started my first year of med school at the time, so, and like I was struggling to find my way into things. Like I couldn't manage my schedule, let alone have time to watch Blazers games and record. So it's the same thing. Like there was no point in making episodes if I wasn't watching the game. I watched like if I was lucky, I watched 1 week. So life got it was hectic at the time, but I'm a little bit more like I have a rhythm now. I'm settled into school. Like I can make time to watch games and to hop on and record. So I'm just like I think this is gonna be a good season for us. Not just the Blazers,
Yeah.
but for us as unbiased trailblazers as well.
Yeah, we'll get to the Blazers here in just a second. I mean, for those of you who do not know, and I'm sure everyone knows, the Blazers parted ways with Root Sports. Thank God we don't have to deal with Root Sports anymore. The absolute horrible, horrible. Just I don't even know how that is still a company that is out there producing shows, but whatever. We don't have to deal with them anymore. The Blazers have their own streaming service called Blazer Vision. I think they're on KATU for the people that are local to Oregon. Unfortunately, I don't think I get that, so I'll probably have to be paying for Blazer Vision, but I have no problem paying for it as long as I can watch the games and it's not super pixelated and skipping and audio cutting out constantly. So I'm looking forward to that. But we have some even bigger news to bring up with life getting in the way, and only having me and Fawad here, with Mike kind of stepping away because of the insane time zone difference that he had. Um, it really turned into, if one of us wasn't able to do a podcast, we just couldn't do a podcast because nobody wants to just listen to one person talk the entire time. I don't even want to listen to myself talk half the time. So, when one of us was busy, we couldn't do anything. And so Fawad and I decided we were going to look for a third person to, come and join us and enjoy this adventure that we're going on. And I believe Fawad posted on Reddit, and we talked in our Discord. Um, I think we may even put it out on Twitter that we were possibly looking for a third person. And I am very, very, very pleased to announce we have found a third person. And at this point, I would like to introduce everybody to Sean. Sean, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here. Alex, Fawad, you guys have built up an awesome podcast. I'm just feeling super honored to be a part of it. I grew up a Portland kid. If you ever see a drunk guy at Jack's talking to you about Donovan Clingan's court vision, could have been me. So I'm just excited to be talking about my favorite thing with a couple fellow fans and joining at a good time, I think. We got a great young roster, and I'm just really excited to kind of see how that plays out this year.
Yeah, so we got someone in the trenches in Portland. Like, he is there. I'm 3 hours away. Fawad is even farther away than that. I mean, he's in a whole different country. So we have someone in the trenches, we got someone away from the trenches, and we got someone across the pond. Not really, but kind of. And we kind of get a little view of everything here. So I am so excited to have you on here, Sean. We've been talking for a little bit now, and I so look forward to continuing to talk with you and keep getting takes from you and learn from you. So I'm so excited to have you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, I'm a huge fan. I think the hardest part for me is going to be living to that unbiased brand. That's going to be something I have to work on. But yeah, I love to talk about the Blazers, and you guys are giving me a space to do it. So yeah, thank you for having me on. I couldn't be more excited.
And speaking of unbiased, like Sean just pointed out, another thing we've discussed, potentially thought about doing, is potentially rebranding our name, because we are not 100%, how I want to put this, we're not 100% sold on the name Unbiased Trailblazers. Yes, we try to be unbiased as we possibly can. But when we were deciding to make the podcast, we didn't really have a name for it, and I just decided, we're going to try to be as unbiased as we can be. So let's call us the Unbiased Trailblazers. And we didn't really have any better idea or any better thought on what our name could be. So with that being said, Fawad, Sean, and I all would like to put this out here. We're still not 100% if we're going to change or not, but if you guys have any thoughts, any opinions, any name ideas for the podcast, we 100% want to know what you guys think. We 100% are going to consider it. And there's a very strong possibility that we do change it, and it could very well be one of the names you guys suggest. So please, 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 if you have any name idea, Discord, Twitter, Reddit, eventually we're going to have our YouTube thing going up again. Any of those places, you just let us know what your thoughts are, and we are definitely going to take it into consideration. As long as it has to do with Tracy McGrady or the Minnesota Vikings, who are 4-0 and are absolutely dominating the NFL right now. But we won't talk about that right now. So let's hop into this. This kind of was a long intro, but let's hop into it. It's been a while. We're rusty. The off season has been very long for us. Not the Blazers, but for us, it's definitely been long. So the very first thing we want to talk about, we're going to take it all the way back to the NBA draft, which about is the only thing that ever happened for us in the offseason. Fawad, when the NBA draft was coming around, we had a good chance at getting the number one pick. Obviously, we didn't get the number one pick. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, honestly. I didn't keep up with the draft scouting too much, as much as I did in the last 2 years. So I didn't have like too many strong opinions, and I think we got what was it, the seventh pick or something like that.
Seventh, yep.
But but I was like, okay, I think the day before, a couple days before, I looked at some guys and I was like, I kind of like Klingon a lot, but I saw him mocked at like number 2 a lot, not like 2 to 4. So like in my mind, I was like, I don't think it's gonna happen. There were a couple other guys I was like looking at, but I didn't really love anyone. The only guy who really stood out to me was Klingon. And then, like 2 days later, draft night comes, and then like it's like pick 4, 5, 6. Klingon's not picked. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, will he actually fall to us? And he did, so I was very happy about that. But again, I didn't follow the scouting too much, so I only knew like surface level things. So I liked him, but I didn't know too much. After he got drafted, I looked into him a little bit more. I did like what I saw. I liked what I saw from Summer League, getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I liked what I saw from him in there as well. And yeah, I'm excited to have him on the team. I think he has a good future.
And before I throw it to Sean, I just want to add to that. I 100% agree. I think for the most part, everyone kind of agreed this draft class was kind of a lackluster draft class. There wasn't really anyone that necessarily stood out as like being a huge like game changer for any team, really. Which probably means there's going to be about 5 of them that are. So, but I was the same way. There wasn't many players that I was like, oh man, we got to get this guy. But I am totally happy with what we got. Seeing what he's done in the summer league. I mean, you can't not be excited to see what we have with him. So, Sean, I'm going to throw it to you. How did you feel the NBA draft went? What was your thoughts? Go for it.
I mean, absolutely agree with Klingon. You're bringing in a proven winner at the high school level, college level, just a guy who plays hard. I think he had a couple technicals in summer league just from being frustrated, which I absolutely love to see. But Fawad did a great job of covering that. And I want to mention a guy I'm, equally excited that we brought in Denny Advia, and just the great fit he is for Portland. We haven't had a good swing wing in years. You're bringing in a young guy on a de-escalating contract who's a connective player, a two-way player, and a guy who just plays hard. And I think that right now, the way the team is built, we have so much talent and athleticism. We have flashy guys who struggle with staying consistent. I think some might even say struggle with effort at times. And when you bring in a guy like Denny, who absolutely is a win first type of player, I think that not only does his on the court skills fit into what we're doing in a really, perfect way, but just some of the intangibles he brings are going to really change the culture and hopefully push these young guys to, work harder in practice and sort of be the best players that they can and try to reach that untapped potential they can. Even going further than this draft, I think Cronin's done a really great job at just stockpiling young talent, and hopefully we're close to seeing some of the dividends of that.
I mean, I just got to say this. The first podcast, and look at the transition you've already thrown in. You went from NBA draft to the trade to Denny right off the bat. It was beautifully done. It's like you've been doing it for years. No,
Hey,
100%.
Fawad did
100%
such a
agree
good
with
job with Klingon. I had to pivot. I had to find something
you.
else.
that was very smooth, and I 100% agree with you. I'm so looking forward to Denny. I mean, that trade, we gave up Malcolm Brogdon. We gave up, I believe it was the 14th pick, if I remember right, which was Golden State's pick. And then like a 2030 or 2029 first round pick. And I think a couple second round picks, if I remember right, for this guy who has proven to be like a very, very good player for the Washington Wizards. Yes, they've not been the greatest team, but that he was one of the main reasons why they were anywhere competitive. And you brought up the most important part of everything, his contract, which is like something you don't ever see anymore in the NBA, is every year gets cheaper and cheaper, which is insane to me. I don't know how we got lucky enough to get that. I mean, that seems like such a valuable asset to have for a player, and especially a player that is as good as he can be. I'm so excited for him. What about you, Fawad?
I actually have a little bit of a controversial opinion regarding him. So the year he was drafted, that was one draft where I actually did pay a little bit of attention to, and I saw so many people hyping him up like he's gonna be so good in the league. I didn't like what I saw on draft night, but whatever. Draft was 4 years ago. The last couple of years of like that he's been in the NBA, I feel like other than this previous season, which I'll admit like he was quite good, I feel like his first 3 years were very disappointing. I'll preface this with I didn't watch him that much outside of like maybe like 3 games a year or something like that. So it's not a big sample size, but I was never really impressed with what I saw until this last year, and that's understandable. Some rookies take time to get better and improve. But because it was such a bad team that he had a good season on, I'm a little bit skeptical of that improvement. Although we are a bad team too, so maybe he'll look good with us as well. But I just think that I'm a little bit more cautious than everyone else. I'm not gonna say I'm a downer, but I just think that I don't think he's necessarily as good as people might think he is. And then I also see now. You mentioned what we traded to get him. I didn't follow all of that perfectly, but I remember at the time I felt like we overpaid a little bit too much. That was so long ago though, so I can't remember like why I thought that or anything. I just remember thinking we overpaid a little bit. But anyways, he's here, so that's not like that's in the past. I'm not worried about that. I hope he plays good. and obviously I'm rooting for him because he's a Blazer now. But like, I just think that I've tempered my expectations. I hope he impresses me, but I'm not there yet.
No, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, he's coming from a team that wasn't necessarily a team that was known for being competitive and winning, but you look at players on our team currently right now, and are we gonna say the same thing about Shaden Sharp or other players? If we were to trade Sharp to any other team, are they going to be saying the same kind of things? Are they going to be excited for him? But because he was on a bad team, maybe his production isn't what it actually shows. I mean, we all think Sharp can be a great player, and he shows flashes of it when he does get to play. I think the biggest thing is if Denny can do, if he can just do exactly what he did with Washington with us, his contract alone makes it worth it. Like that each year he's getting cheaper and cheaper. You can move him if you want to a contender if he's still producing like he did last year. If we're still so far away from competing, you can move him to a contender that is going to be an easy move because of his contract getting less and less. I mean, I look forward to watching him play. I can be the first to admit that I watched maybe 2 Washington Wizard games, and I definitely was not just sitting there solely paying attention to Denny. But Sean, do you have anything that you want to add to him?
I think Fawad kind of hit the nail on the head in that last year he really took a big jump, and what that came down to for him was his 3-point efficiency skyrocketed in a way that historically is hard to keep up. So kind of the X factor for him, in my opinion, will be is that fool's gold, or do we really have I believe 6'9", 240 pounds, whatever he is, 3-point shooter who can pass? Because if you take away the shooting, all of a sudden you're looking at a guy who might be closer to a Matisse Thybulle kind of an impact, which you're right, Alex, given his
You're looking at a
contract.
Ben Simmons if he can't shoot.
Hey, at least he plays basketball still. We'll take
That's
that.
true. That's true.
But
Fair enough.
but if the shot is there, then you have a guy who really can fit in pretty seamlessly to the score. And so, with the way the team is made up, I don't mind taking a swing on kind of a potentially outlier year, but a guy who by all accounts has great work ethic. Even in the media day, he talked so much about how he just focused solely on his shot the previous year, and you saw how that paid off. So given his contract and given that the picks we're giving up are mid first round picks, even late first round picks, if I remember right, the future pick is the second best out of the 3 we have in that year, and so shouldn't be too high of a pick. I don't hate the swing, and at some point in a weak draft, especially getting a guy who really does have some potential, is on a good contract, and is still young despite being on his second contract in the NBA, is a move I really liked, but I can definitely understand the apprehension there.
Well, and you made a good point. The pick that we traded in 2029 is the second best pick for us. And let's be honest, if in 2029 we're still concerned about what draft pick we have, then this isn't the trade that caused that issue.
Then we're on our second rebuild.
Yeah, like we're struggling. We have become the Charlotte Hornets. Like we are struggling. So I think, I mean, I'm excited to see it. I think it's a position, it's a spot we've needed for a long time. A player that can play like he does, at least from last year. I mean, I'm solely going off of last year. We've seen players take leaps and keep those leaps. We've seen players have a 1-year leap and go right back to being an absolute nothing. So, I mean, sometimes we're never going to know until we actually see it. But he is definitely going to have a great chance here to improve on what he was doing last year. And speaking of improving, for most people in the Portland Trailblazer fan base, Scoot Henderson left a lot to be. I don't want to say this, so I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't say it. It wasn't the most exciting NBA season for him. And for those of you that watched the media day, the what was that, Monday? I think that was Monday. you probably were even more puzzled by his interview and his answers to the questions, and you were, there. I have definitely seen some people who have kind of been even more concerned for him. Fawad had shared a post from someone that I am not familiar with that was reporting on Scoot, and kind of was talking about how Scoot was the most lackluster person he saw during the off season. So something me and Fawad had talked about in the past is we were a little concerned about Scoot. He kind of wasn't. It's hard to say. I don't even know really how to articulate this well. I still want to give him the chance, but boy, did last year not make me feel any better. And then kind of seeing him in media day kind of put another bad taste in my mouth. So, Sean, I want to start with you on this one. How do you feel with Scoot? How are you feeling?
I feel the same as you guys. I think there's real concern there. This is a big year for him. He flashed towards the end of the year, and the argument you could make in favor of Scoot is that he ended the year really strongly. He's young, and that point guard is a tough position to make or to learn. However, given how highly touted of a prospect he is, I mean, if he went in this draft, he's the consensus number one pick, no doubt in my mind. And to see him really struggle with some of the things that coming into the league he was supposed to be elite at, definitely cooled my jets a little bit on him. I didn't see a ton of the burst and athleticism I was expecting. Don't get me wrong, he's a highly athletic player, but the scouting reports were generational athleticism, thunderous finishing at the rim, and he really struggled at the rim this past year.
Yep.
The shooting was a known concern, but one that proved to be pretty true. The vision, I think, improved a lot as the year went on and was something I kind of expected. But yeah, he has a lot to prove this year. And, he's going to be probably the most kind of under the microscope player on the Blazers this year. And, there's a real chance we're going to know at the end of the year whether he's the guy we're building around or if he's just another piece for us. And we need to find the guy still.
100% agree. I mean, I do agree. Towards the end of the season and the games that I was able to watch, he did show a little bit of an improvement. And in all honesty, a lot of people were concerned with the turnovers, which that is something to be a little concerned about. But when you're a young guy trying to learn how to play in the NBA, especially how young he is, and not being on a team that is necessarily a very good offensive team, like he's trying to create things, he's forcing things at times. So I mean, to an extent, I understand the high turnovers. And as the year went on, he got a little bit better, but definitely, I agree. He's probably going to be the one that's watched the most and probably, unfortunately, scrutinized the most if he continues to, not show signs of getting better. Fawad, what about you? How do you feel about Scoot?
I'm gonna pull a Sean here and say that you guys echoed pretty much everything I want to say about Scoot. I'm gonna transition a little bit into Cronin's media day interview, where he kind of also hinted at some of this. I think I wrote down some of the exact things he said, but some of the stuff he was talking about was like some of our young guys have shown flashes, but this season he wants to see actual consistent improvement. He doesn't really care about flashes anymore. He doesn't care about like a 5-game stretch. He wants to see that extended over throughout the season. So I think that was a good message to send from Cronin. He was talking about all of the young guys, Klingon, Scoot, and Shaden. Obviously, Klingon hasn't played yet, so it's more on Scoot and Shaden. But yeah, he said he wanted to see like actual improvement from there, and he also agreed that like last season didn't give us a lot of clarity, and then this season that we'll get some of those answers that we wanted. So yeah, depending on how good of a season Scoot has, and also Shaden as well, but depending on how good of a season they have, I think it'll tell us a lot about our future and where we are in that rebuild stage. So I think that was actually like a very good answer from Cronin, and I was actually surprised that he was that direct. And I thought he might have played it safe and like, oh, they're just young players, they're gonna have ups and downs. But I like that it was more or less a pretty clear message that he wants to see improvement and that this season is going to decide a lot of things moving forward.
Yeah, Cronin was one of the only interviews I was able to watch all the way through. And one of my biggest things that I took away from it is like he was being very direct, very clear cut on, what I mean, at one point he essentially just said, like, our roster is not good enough, is essentially what he was saying. And you don't hear that often from a GM who's, been in control. They may say that there's changes that need to be made, but you don't ever really hear them say, no, we're not good enough yet, which is a good thing. But I can also see how some people are not going to like that. But, when you're trying to be, for us, when we're trying to be as unbiased as we can all agree our roster is not anywhere close to where we want it to be or where we think it should be to be a competitive team. So I'm glad that he said something like that. Sean, did you have anything on Cronin or any other media day thing that you saw that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. The idea of just absolutely not being ready to compete at a high level left me with some mixed opinions on it. He's being truthful.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a difficult message to send to the guys, but it's one they
Yep.
probably needed to hear. I thought one interesting point that was brought up by a reporter is how Chauncey's entering his last year of his contract, and Cronin kind of avoided the question a little bit, as did Chauncey. They both said they weren't thinking about it, focused on this season, but he really needs to show that, sure, we might not make the playoffs and win games, but there has to be some level of improvement, at least individually, if not as a team. We have 3 straight top 10 picks. Scoot's a guy who, was essentially an A-plus prospect, and it's time now that we need to see someone or multiple someones take a jump. And it's been, I think we'll be able to know how long this rebuild is going to take after this year. If we're anywhere close and we're along the right track, we're going to see it. And there's a real chance that we get sort of a carbon copy of last year, and then we're going to be left thinking, well, where do we go from here? Are we going to be a bottom 5 team in the NBA for the next 3 years? It's certainly possible, but there is on paper enough talent that these guys should be growing and should be improving on the court. We just need to see the results, which we haven't really yet. So I'm glad Cronin said that. It's a message that certainly needed to be sent, and I think he did it at the right time.
Yeah, Fawad and I both, when Billups first signed with us, we were willing to give Billups, the benefit of the doubt, give him time to make changes and develop players. And I don't know about you, Fawad, but do I think Billups has had a fair shot at it? No, but at the same time, I also don't think I've seen too much improvement over the the years he has been here. So, Fawad, how do you feel about Chauncey?
I don't know if I agree that he hasn't had a fair shot at it. I think, sure, he didn't have the team that he signed up to coach. That went off the rails pretty quickly once he came on. But I think he's had 3 years now of so that's some continuity. That's something that you should see some improvement. You should have a good idea of
Yeah.
what kind of a coach he is. The one like saving, or not saving grace, but like the one like caveat I'll give him that he can like claim this is that some coaches are just good for coaching like contenders, and some coaches are only good for coaching rebuilding. So it's possible he might be a good coach for someone who's at that high level. But I think for a rebuilding team, even though the players love him, and I don't think anyone's like really gotten worse or like had serious development issues, but I don't think there's been anything there that's outstanding. And I think he's had enough of a chance that we can make that judgment on him. And yeah, at the beginning, me and you both, we were like, let him have a chance, let him have a season, let him have 2 seasons even. But I think now at this point, like, there's nothing really there. I think if we were a little bit better, he probably would have been fired. But just because there's no a coach isn't going to save this team, I think they're going to let him write out the contract. But yeah, I think that's pretty much. I don't have any more specific thoughts on Chauncey.
Yeah, when I said he didn't have a fair shot, I guess I meant like he's definitely had a fair chance at making this team good. But when you think about it, you signed onto a team that has Damian Lillard and you've lose Damian Lillard right off the bat. You've had to deal with injuries with Sharp. You've had to deal with injuries with Simons for a little bit. So you're kind of missing, even when Dame was gone, you're still missing some of the players that you would want to build on. So I guess when I said he didn't really get a fair shot, he did. He definitely did. He's definitely had time to, instill things. And I still question some of the things he does defensively, some of the schemes that he has that sometimes does not make sense to me. I agree with you. I think that they just ride this contract out. I mean, I don't think changing a coach is going to make any different. I don't think you put any coach in this situation, they're just going to automatically be a much, much better team. They may get a little bit better, but I don't think we're at that step where a coach is really making that much of a difference. The other thing I wanted to talk about, unless you guys had anything else that you wanted to bring up from media day, I wanted to get your guys's what. Do you have something for?
Sorry. Yeah, just one very small thing. Actually, two small things. But first, I talked a little bit about Shaden, but I think it's also a big season for him. We love him. He's shown a lot of flashes, but he's also had some periods of inconsistency. And he's also obviously been injured a lot. So I think we really want to see healthy seasons from him, and we want to see some improvement. One thing that he said in his interview, which I think I might have heard wrong because I saw the post on Rip City by shout out to Maeve the Great. It said so what I heard Shaden say was that he didn't play a lot of basketball all summer. But then the post says that Shaden did play a lot. So if he did play all summer, that's good because I think that's been an issue in the past where he wasn't able to get a lot of reps in. But if he wasn't able to play, I think that's going to be a little bit concerning, and he might have a slower start this season. But I'm excited for him. But I also think it's a very big season for him as well.
Yeah, I've seen a couple clips of him playing 5-on-5, which, like you brought up, Maeve the Great did do a post on Reddit and the Rip City one, and he had brought that up in there. And granted, this says he played a lot of 5-on-5. I will be the first to say I didn't see a lot of it, but I'm not also looking for Shaden Sharp videos playing 5-on-5, so I did see some of it, but I didn't see. I can't attest to if he said he didn't or didn't. If he didn't or did, I just contradicted myself there. But yeah, I've made it very clear. I love Sharp. I think he's got so much potential, and I think he has shown flashes where you can definitely tell if he was given the chance, he could definitely be an all-star caliber player. But you hit it perfectly. Health has been a big issue for him. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing with him is, can he stay healthy? That's one of my in-season goals is, can Sharp play a majority of the season without getting hurt? Which leads me to my question for you guys. What are some of the things you're looking forward to in this season before we wrap up? Let's start with Fawad. Fawad, what's some of the things you're looking forward to?
Two guys. One of them, sorry. Well, I guess three if you count Shaden, but the two guys I'm really, really excited about. One, Jabari Walker, who I was surprised didn't get a media day interview, but I thought he was one of the few bright spots of last season of the games that I did watch. I also liked him a lot, straight from his rookie season. I think he's always been, a good hustle player. He always does the little things, and he's been, I think, steadily been improving, and it's been noticeable that he improved. So I'm excited to see him. And then the other guy I'm excited about is Tumani Kamara, who was also a big surprise last season. I thought he was just a throw-in in the trade when we got him, but he actually had a great season. I'm looking forward to seeing him more. Hopefully he gets big minutes this season. And also, he was the only interview in the entire media day that I watched. Granted, I didn't watch everyone, but he was the only one where I actually had a good time listening to it. Everyone else was so boring and dry. He had some energy that was it just made him so much more likable. It was just I don't know. I just liked his personality a lot more than anyone else. So I'm excited
You
for
mean
him.
you didn't like Scoots? You didn't like Scoots. What was your favorite thing? Food? That
Food.
didn't just get you so excited? What about you, Sean?
Excited is the right word for that.
What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I'll take it in a little different direction. I think the thing I'm most excited to see is how this roster is going to look post trade deadline and even after the season.
Damn you! That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I got you on that one. But yeah, I mean, if you really look at our roster, our potentially 3 best players on it, you could argue are Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, and Anthony Simons. And all those guys are arguably with or not within the window of what we're looking to do here. And Cronin's been very clear that he's being as active as he possibly can. He's continuing to look for young assets. And those are guys that I think that you may potentially see on the move. And that's not to say other guys like Robert Williams and some of our other more fringe pieces could as well, but I would keep an eye on those 3 players in Simons, Ayton, and Grant, because you might see a big splash around the trade deadline, and that could really shake up how this rebuild is going to go forward.
Well, thanks, Sean, for taking that.
Time to scramble.
So I've been fairly vocal about. I think Simons is a good basketball player, but I think keeping him has always been a mistake. I feel like we're kind of repeating a CJ McCollum where when we, made that Western Conference Finals push, couldn't quite get there. That was the season to capitalize on CJ, and we kind of waited a little too long. We have a massive logjam at guard. I mean, we have way too many high value players that can play guard, and something has to budge. We can't keep coming out here with Sharp. Sharp should be starting. Scoot should be starting. Simon should be starting, but that 3 starting lineup does not work. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. Scoot should be starting. We'll see as the year goes on if that remains to be the same. But I feel like Simons, we've got to move him. Not because I don't think he's good, but he can go somewhere that he can contribute to a winning team and give us a little bit more flexibility at the guard position. I also agree. I think if I had to pick between Grant and Ayton, I think Grant would probably be the one that's going to move, only because Ayton's age fits a little bit better with our team. But I totally could see them moving him as well. So if you asked me who the 2 players that would be moved, it would be Simons and Grant, and I hope that happens only because I want to see what Scoot and Sharp can do when they don't have to worry about fitting in with also Simons at the same time. So my question to you guys before we wrap up, I know I said that last time. If there was one player on our team that you felt like was a for sure move or needed to be moved, who would it be? Let's go with you first, Sean.
For sure needed to be moved. I think I would say Grant. I agree with you on Simons that he's just not a fit, but there is, like you mentioned, some insurance between Scoot and Shaden where can't say I'm 100% confident they'll both pan out in the way we want them to.
Yep.
So it does give us a little bit of a backup plan there. Of course, some of it's going to depend on return, and I think likely Simons might give you a somewhat bigger one given his contract and age. But Grant is a guy who I could totally see being moved at the deadline. He's a 2-way player. He's a forward who can shoot, and every contending team could use that. Yep. So I think he's probably the number 1 guy on my list. And just to add a throwaway one, I'm sorry if I'm stealing it. I think Robert Williams is, if we can get anything for him at all anymore. I mean, who knows what his value is given his injury history, but having just drafted Klingon, who does a lot of the same things that Williams does, and is someone who's going to be sticking around long term. I think it's time for him to probably get moved, and we kind of will be at the mercy of other teams to get what we can get.
Yeah, we're kind of running into the same logjam at center that we are with guards. I mean, we have three very strong. Granted, Williams hasn't been able to play as much as we'd want to see, but I mean, when he was playing for Boston, he was a very good player. So 100% agree there too. What about you, Fawad?
Before I give my answer, you said we have 3 bigs, and I think one of the reporters also made the mistake during media day, and I think it was Cronin that corrected them. We have 4 good bigs because Duop Breathe also
That's
had a
Yes.
true.
great season last.
That
Anyways,
is fair. Good point.
my answer, honestly, I think it might be a cop out, but I think both of them need to be traded. If I had to pick which one like needs to be traded more, I think I would go with Simons because I don't think he's gonna get too much better than he is now. So I think the older he gets, I think the less value he has, and his contract's also good. But I think it's more valuable with more years on it. So I think the sooner we trade Simons, I think the better it is for us because I think his value is gonna keep going down. Whereas Grant's contract is so bad that the more time we take off, his value might even go a little bit up, even though his age is getting up there as well. But I think Simons probably priority number one, even though his position, like if Scoot's not good, then maybe we do need Simons a little bit more. But anyways, I think I'd give the edge that we need to move Simons a little bit more. But both of them I want gone by the deadline. Worst case next summer.
And honestly, if you ask me, the biggest reason I would want Simons to be moved and is to see what we have in Scoot, what we have in Sharp. As long as we have Simons here, there's always going to be that something to fall back on. We have Simons. We're never gonna the offense is never gonna fully run through Scoot or fully run through Sharp when Simons is still here. So we're a young enough team. We're not expecting to win this year. We need to see what we have with these guys. You're not going to get a real good look at Scoot at point guard while you have Simons. Simons has to have the ball in his hand for the most part, and they want him to have the ball in his hand. They want him to play make. They want him to be able to score. So to me, it just makes the most sense to move Simons, get something good for him. And it's so funny. We talked about when we extended him, and everyone was freaking out about how much money it was for, right? And both you and I, Fawad, both were saying, no, this is a good contract. Players, when years go down, these contracts are going to be even crazier. And now look at us here. Like that contract Simons has is a great contract to either move or to keep. So they did a good job in extending Simons there. Is there anything else we want to touch on before we sign out? Okay. October
I think you got
1st,
your answer.
2024. What was that?
You got your answer sounds there.
Oh, gotcha. October 1st, 2024, the official return episode of Unbiased Trailblazers. Sean, once again, I'm so happy you're here. We look forward to talking to you every week. And Fawad, as always, thanks for being here as well. Anything you guys want to say before we close out?
No, that was a blast. Thanks so much for having me on, and can't wait to talk Blazers basketball with you for the rest of the year.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. And as always, Rip City, baby. Thanks to My Life Pursuing for the music used on the intros and the outros of this podcast. You can check them out on all major streaming platforms at My Life Pursuing.
I'm trying, Jennifer. I'm trying, Jennifer.